Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. My mother convinced my girlfriend to marry my brother. She told her he was stronger and a better fit for her. I was devastated when I came back and saw what had happened, but I left the town to rebuild my life. When I returned, everything had changed. My story begins on the day everything I thought I had fell apart. Back then, I was just a guy in a small town called Harriston, a place where everyone knows your business before you do. I was 23, working at the local hardware store, stacking lumber and ringing up nails for people who'd known me since I was a kid. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills, and I had Leah. She was my world, dark hair that fell in waves, a laugh that made the air feel lighter. We've been together for 2 years, and I was saving up for a ring. Not a fancy one, just something to slip on her finger and say, "You're mine and I'm yours." That summer, I got a chance to make some extra cash. A friend set me up with a 3-week gig hauling hay an hour away. It was hard work, sweat soaking my shirt, dust clogging my throat, but I pictured Leah's face every time I threw a bale. I'd call her each night from a creaky pay phone outside the bunkhouse. Her voice was soft and sweet through the static. "Miss you," she'd say, and I'd grin like an idiot, counting the days until I could be back. What I didn't know was that my mother was counting down too, but for a completely different reason. When I rolled back into Harriston, my truck rattling down Main Street, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. I had made enough to start a savings account, maybe even take Leah somewhere nice. I stopped by her house first, just a little shotgun place with peeling paint and flowers she planted blooming out front. But when I knocked, her mom answered, lips tight like she'd bitten into a lemon. "She's not here, Alden," she said, barely looking at me. "You should talk to your family." My gut twisted. I drove home, kicking up dust behind me, and walked into chaos. My mom, Margaret, was in the kitchen barking orders at my brother Jordan like she was a general. Jordan, 6 feet 3 inches and lounging against the counter, was smirking. And that's when I saw it, the ring on his finger, a cheap gold band that didn't match the one I'd been planning to buy. "Where's Leah?" I asked, my voice rougher than I meant it to be. Mom turned, wiping her hands like she was brushing me off. "She's with Jordan now, Alden. They're engaged." "It's done." The room spun. I looked at Jordan, his grin widening like he just won some prize. I could have punched through the wall. "What the hell are you talking about?" I said, stepping closer. "Calm down," Mom snapped. "Leah needed a man, not a boy chasing pipe dreams. Jordan is strong, steady. He's got a future. You're just... you." Her words hit like a slap. I'd spent my life. I was trying to make her proud, fixing the porch when it sagged, working overtime so she wouldn't have to worry about bills. And Jordan? He coasted, leaned on his charm, never lifting a finger unless it got him something. And now he had Leah. I stormed out, tires squealing as I drove to her place again. She was there this time, sitting on the porch swing, her eyes red. "Alden," she started, but I cut her off. "Is it true?" I asked. She nodded, twisting her hands nervously. "Your mom," she said. "She said you'd never be enough, that Jordan could take care of me." I didn't know what to say. "You didn't know what to do," she whispered, and I let out a bitter laugh that sounded hollow. "You could have waited 3 damn weeks. You could have called me." Tears spilled down her cheeks, and part of me wanted to hold her, tell her everything would be okay. But the other part, the part that saw Jordan smirk and heard my mom's voice, knew it was over. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I didn't respond. I just turned and walked away, her sobs fading behind me. That night, I sat in my room staring at the walls I had grown up in. Pictures of us as kids, me and Jordan fishing, Mom smiling at a picnic, felt like lies. I wasn't part of that family anymore. I was the spare, the one they tossed aside when something better came along. By morning, I made up my mind. I packed a duffel bag with clothes, a toothbrush, and the $50 I had left from the high job. Mom was in the living room when I came down, knitting as if nothing had happened. "Where are you going?" she asked, not even looking up. "Anywhere but here," I said. She didn't stop me. Jordan wasn't around, probably off gloating. I got in my truck and drove, the town shrinking in my rearview mirror. I didn't know where I was headed, but I knew one thing. I wouldn't let them break me again. That's how it all started, the day I lost everything and decided to build something they couldn't touch. Leaving her felt like shedding a skin I didn't fit in anymore. My truck rattled down the highway, the radio buzzing with static, And I didn't stop until the gas needle hit empty. That's how I ended up in East, in a city big enough to swallow me whole. Concrete and noise, so different from the quiet fields I had left behind. I had $50, a duffel bag, and a fire in my chest that wouldn't quit. I wasn't sure what I was chasing, but I knew I couldn't go back. The first few days, I slept in my truck, windows cracked, parked behind a diner where the cooks didn't care as long as I moved by dawn. I'd wake up stiff-necked and aching, then wash my face in a gas station sink, splashing cold water until I felt human again. I needed a job fast, so I walked into every place with a help wanted sign, my boots scuffing the sidewalks littered with gum wrappers and cigarette butts. Most folks just took one look at my faded jeans and said, "We'll call you," but they never did. Finally, I stumbled into a warehouse job loading crates on trucks for $10 an hour. It was brutal. Arms burned after the first shift, dripping into my eyes as I hauled boxes of car parts or whatever else they shipped. The foreman, a guy named Rick with a gravelly voice, barked orders nonstop. "Move it, new kid," he'd yell, and I'd grit my teeth, picturing Jordan smirk every time I wanted to quit. I wasn't strong like him, not yet, but I'd be damned if that was going to stop me. Nights were the hardest. I'd crash in a cheap motel room I rented by the week. The walls were thin enough to hear the guy next door coughing up a lung, and I'd lie there staring at the water stains on the ceiling, thinking about Leah. Her face would sneak in, those soft eyes, that laugh, and I'd wonder if she was happy with Jordan. Then I'd hear my mom's voice in my head. "You're just you." I'd roll over, punching the pillow until the thought faded, telling myself to shut up. I didn't have time to feel sorry for myself. One day I noticed a flyer taped to a pole outside the warehouse. Night classes, learn a trade, build a future. It was for the community college just a few blocks away. I'd never been big on school. I barely scraped through high school, but something about that flyer stuck with me. Maybe it was the word future. I signed up for a basic computer course, figuring it couldn't hurt. The first night I sat in a room full of tired people like me, all hunched over clunky old PCs. The teacher, Mr. Hayes, was a wiry guy with glasses sliding down his nose. "You don't need to be smart," he said. "You just need to show up." I could do that. That's where I met Sierra. She was in the back row, tapping away at her keyboard like it was second nature. Short brown hair, freckles across her nose, and a smile that didn't feel forced. We got paired up for a dumb assignment making a spreadsheet, and I fumbled through it, cursing under my breath. "Relax," she said, leaning over to fix my mess. "It's not brain surgery." Her fingers flew across the keys and I just watched, feeling like a kid who'd wandered into the wrong class. After class, we grabbed coffee at a diner across the street, black for me, cream and sugar for her. She told me she'd grown up in Easton, worked as a cashier, but wanted more. "I'm not staying behind a register forever," she said, stirring her cup. "What about you?" "I don't know," I mumbled. "Just trying to figure it out." She nodded like she understood. We started talking after class most nights about the course, then random stuff like movies or the best cheap eats in town. She had a way of making me forget the ache I carried around. Work got steadier. Rick stopped yelling so much and even clapped me on the shoulder once, saying, "You're not half bad, kid." I saved enough to ditch the motel for a tiny apartment with peeling paint and a mattress on the floor, but it was mine. Sierra came over one night with a pizza, laughing at my empty place. "You need a chair or something," she teased, plopping down cross-legged on the carpet. We ate straight from the box, grease staining our fingers. For the first time in a while, I felt something loosen in my chest. Not love, not yet, but a crack of light in the dark. Then came the break. A guy at the warehouse mentioned his cousin's startup needed help. Some tech outfit building apps or gadgets. I wasn't sure. They wanted grown-ups who would work hard, he said. I showed up in my cleanest shirt, palms sweaty, and talked to a skinny guy in a hoodie named Tim. He asked what I could do and I said, "Anything you teach me." I guess that was enough. He hired me as an assistant, running errands, hauling gear, whatever they needed. It was better than the warehouse and I got to watch these brainy types code and argue over stuff I barely understood. I soaked it all in, asking questions whenever they'd let me. By the end of my first year in Easton, I wasn't the same guy who left Harriston. My hands were calloused, my bank account had a few $100 in it, and I had Sierra, well, not had her, but she was there, steady as a heartbeat. One night, walking her home from class, she slipped her hand into mine, casual like it was nothing. I froze, then squeezed back, my pulse thumping. "You're doing good, Alden," she said, looking up at me. "Don't stop." I didn't plan to. I'd lost everything once, and I wasn't going to let that happen again. But as I walked back to my place with the city lights buzzing overhead, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Something bigger was coming, and I could taste it. After a while, Easton stopped feeling like a maze. It turned into home. Piece by piece, I'd been there a few years by then, and life had a rhythm. Work, Sierra, and this quiet fire inside me that kept pushing me forward. That startup gig I'd stumbled into wasn't just about running errands anymore. Tim, the skinny guy in the hoodie who'd hired me, started trusting me with more, testing apps, running numbers, even sitting in on meetings where they tossed ideas around like ping pong balls. I didn't understand half of it at first, but I listened, scribbled notes on napkins, and figured it out. It turned out I was good at seeing the big picture, how the pieces fit together, what people might want. One day, Tim pulled me aside, coffee breath and all. "Alden," he said, "you wasted hauling boxes. We're scaling up, new office, investors. I need someone to manage ops. You in?" I blinked, waiting for the punchline, but he was serious. Operations, me, keeping the chaos in line, shipments, schedules, budgets. I'd never done it, but I'd watched Rick run the warehouse like a drill sergeant. I could learn. "Yeah," I said, my heart thumping. "I'm in." And that's how it started, me climbing step by sweaty step. The company grew fast. We built it, hitting big with college kids, then offices, and eventually overseas. I worked late, slept less, and loved every minute of it. Sierra stuck with me through it all. We'd been dating a year when I asked her to move in. Nothing fancy, just my little apartment with a couch now instead of a mattress. She said yes, hauling in a box of books and a coffee pot, grinning like we'd want something a year after that. I proposed. No big scene, just us on the fire escape, city lights flickering below in a ring. I'd saved 6 months for it. She cried, nodded, and that was that. We got married at City Hall, her in a white dress she found on sale, me in a suit that pinched at the shoulders. No crowd, no fuss, just a couple of friends from work and her sister snapping pictures. I liked it that way. Quiet hours soon after, she got pregnant, and 9 months later we had Maya, tiny and loud, with Sierra's freckles already dotting her nose. 2 years after that came Eli, all chubby cheeks and fists. I'd come home bone tired and they would climb on me, giggling, and suddenly the day didn't feel so heavy. By then I was CEO. Yeah, me, Alden from Harrison, the kid who stacked lumber, running a company worth millions. Tim stepped back to tinker with code, and the board picked me to lead. I didn't flaunt it. I kept my truck, the same boots, and let Sierra handle the spotlight stuff. Interviews, fancy dinners. She was good at it, charming people in suits with her quick laugh, while I stayed behind the scenes, making sure the machine ran smoothly. We bought a house, not a mansion, just a brick place with a yard for the kids, but we kept it low-key, only telling those who needed to know. I liked it that way, kept it secret. Felt safer. But the past wasn't gone. It crept in late at night when the house was still and Sierra's breathing was soft beside me. I'd see Leah's face, hear my mom's voice cutting me down. Picture Jordan flexing like he owned the world. I kept a box in the closet, old photos, a letter from Mom I'd never opened, a snapshot of me and Leah at the county fair, her head on my shoulder. Sometimes I would pull it out, stare at it, then shove it back. Sierra caught me once and asked what it was. "Nothing," I lied, and she let it go, but her eyes said she knew. We were happy, me, Sierra, the kids, but I wasn't whole, not yet. I'd built this life brick by brick, and it was good, but there was a hole where Harrison used to be. I didn't miss them, not really, but I wondered. Did they ever think about me? Did Leah regret it? Did Mom care that she lost a son? I pushed those thoughts down, focused on Maya's drawings or Elliot's babbling, but it lingered. Then the call came. I was in the office, papers spread across my desk, when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. Harrison area code. I almost didn't pick up, but something made me. "Alden," a voice said, gruff and familiar. "Uncle Peter, Dad's brother. Your dad's gone. Heart attack. Funeral Saturday." My throat locked up. Dad hadn't been perfect. Quiet, let Mom run the show, but he'd never cut me like she did. I mumbled something about being there, then hung up, staring at the wall. Sierra found me like that when she got home, the kids trailing behind her. "What's wrong?" she asked, setting Elliot on the floor. I told her, voice flat. "You don't have to go," she said, her hand on my arm, but I shook my head. I do. Mom, not for Jordan or Leah, for Dad maybe, or for me. I needed to see it through that night. I couldn't sleep. I slipped out of bed, dug out that box again. The letter from Mom was still sealed, postmarked a year back. I tore it open, my hand shaking. Alden, come home. We miss you. Jordan and Leah are struggling. Help us. No apologies, no nothing, just a demand like always. I crumpled it and tossed it in the trash. They didn't get to need me now. Friday I packed a bag. Suit, tie, nothing flashy. Sierra hugged me tight at the door, Maya clinging to my leg. Be careful, Sierra said, searching my eyes. I will, I promised. Driving out of Easton, the kids waved from the porch. I felt the old ache stir. Harrison was calling me back, and I wasn't sure what I'd find, but I knew one thing. I wasn't that broke kid anymore. Whatever waited there, I'd face it standing tall. The drive back to Harrison felt like crossing a line I'd drawn in the dirt years ago. My truck hummed along the highway, fields blurring past, and with every mile the knot in my stomach tightened. I hadn't been back since I peeled out at 23, tailpipe spitting dust. And now here I was at 35 with a life they knew nothing about. The radio crackled with some old country song about lost love, and I switched it off. Didn't need the reminder. I rolled into town late on Friday. The sky was gray and heavy like it might rain. Harrison hadn't changed much. The same sagging porches, the same gas station with the busted sign. I pulled into a motel on the edge of town. A squat brick building with flickering neon. The clerk barely glanced up as I paid cash for a room. The bed creaked, the sheets smelled like bleach, but it would do. I dropped my bag and stared at myself in the cracked mirror. Lines around my eyes, hair a little thinner. I wasn't that kid anymore, but I could still feel him rattling around inside me. Saturday morning I put on the suit. Dark, simple, nothing flashy, and drove to the church. It was the same one I'd gone to as a kid, the white paint peeling, the steeple leaning like it was tired. Cars lined the lot, folks in black milling around, voices low. I parked at the back, took a deep breath, and stepped out. Heads turned, old neighbors, cousins I hadn't seen in years, but no one said much. I was a ghost to them now. Inside, the pews were packed, the air thick with flowers and murmurs. I slid into a seat near the back next to some guy I vaguely remembered from high school. Then I saw Mom, Jordan, and Leah up front like royalty holding court. Mom's hair was grayer, pulled tight in a bun, her face as sharp as ever. Jordan sat broad-shouldered, his suit straining at the seams, looking bored. Leah was thinner, her eyes dull, hands folded in her lap. Time hadn't been kind, but I didn't feel sorry, not yet. A woman leaned over Mrs. Carter, who had taught me Sunday school, and whispered, "They stuck you back here, huh? Typical." Margaret, I shrugged and kept my mouth shut. I could feel Mom's eyes sweep the room, but she didn't spot me. Jordan muttered something to Leah, and she nodded blank as a doll. They thought I was nothing, a broke nobody who'd crawled back for crumbs. Let them. The service started, the preacher droning on about Dad's life, how he'd worked the farm and loved his family. I barely listened. Dad had been quiet, always in Mom's shadow, but he taught me to fish in my bike when I crashed it. He never stood up for me, though, not once. I wondered if he'd tried at the end. Then Uncle Peter got up, clearing his throat and holding a paper. "Alden," he said, his voice carrying, "your dad wanted you to read this." Heads turned, whispers rippled, Mom's face twitched. Jordan frowned and Leah's eyes flicked up. I stood, legs steady, and walked to the front. The aisle felt a mile long, each step echoing on the wood floor. Peter handed me the paper, clapped me on the shoulder, and I faced the crowd. Dad's handwriting stared back at me, shaky, slanted. "Real to my boy Alden," I started, my voice low but clear. "I wasn't the father you deserved. I let things happen I shouldn't have, but I watched you from afar. I heard about your life, your work. You made something out of nothing, and I'm proud. I'm sorry I didn't say it sooner." My throat tightened, but I kept going. "You're stronger than I ever was. Don't let anyone tell you different." The room was dead silent. I glanced up. Mom's lips were a thin line. Jordan shifted like he might bolt, and Leah stared at her hands. I could have stopped there, let it hang, but something in me snapped. "I brought my family today," I said, looking to the back. "Sierra, kids, come on up, hustle." I added. Footsteps echoed. Sierra walked down the aisle, Maya and Elliot trailing her. She wore a simple black dress, sharp and clean, her hair pulled back, and the kids looked like little adults. Maya in a skirt, Elliot in a tie. I nodded to myself as they reached me, Sierra's hand brushing mine, and I turned back to the crowd. You could have heard a pin drop. Mom's face went pale like she'd seen a ghost. Jordan's jaw dropped, eyes darting between me and the kids. Leah blinked slowly like she was waking up. The rest of the church buzzed with whispers and gasps, but I didn't care. I folded Dad's letter, tucked it in my pocket and said, "That's all." Then I led my family back to our seats, Sierra's fingers laced with mine, Maya whispering, "Was that okay, Daddy?" I nodded, throat too tight to speak. The rest of the service blurred, hymns, prayers, people filing past Dad's casket. I stayed put, watching Mom twist her handkerchief, Jordan glare at the floor, and Leah sneak glances my way. They hadn't said a word, but I could feel it. Their world tilting, cracking. When it ended, folks spilled outside, the air damp with the rain that had finally started. I stood under the awning, Sierra beside me, kids playing with a pebble they'd found. I thought that would be it. A look, a moment, and then I'd leave. But then I saw them coming. Mom, Jordan, and Leah cutting through the crowd, faces I hadn't faced in 12 years. My pulse quickened. I squared my shoulders. Whatever they had to say, I was ready. The rain tapped on the church awning, keeping time as I stood there, Sierra close, the kids kicking at puddles a few feet away. The crowd thinned out, people hurrying to their cars, but I didn't move. My eyes were locked on them. Mom, Jordan, and Leah pushing through, their faces tight like they had rehearsed what they were going to say. It had been 12 years since I'd left, and here they were about to speak words I wasn't sure I wanted to hear. My hands balled up in my pockets, but I kept my chin up. They didn't get to see me flinch. Mom reached me first, her black dress soaked at the hem, eyes sharp as ever. "Alden," she said, voice clipped like she was calling me in for supper. "You should have told us you were coming." No hello, no nothing, just that old tone like I'd inconvenienced her. Jordan loomed behind her, arms crossed, rain plastering his hair to his forehead. Leah hung back, clutching an umbrella, looking smaller than I remembered. "I told you," I said, keeping my tone even. "Didn't think you'd care." Her mouth twitched. "Of course we care. Your family." She glanced at Sierra and the kids, then back at me like she was sizing up a puzzle she couldn't solve. "What's all this? The suit, the wife, the children?" I let the question hang, the rain drumming between us. Sierra stepped closer, her hand on my arm, steady as always. "This is my life," I said finally. "Built it myself, no thanks to you." Jordan snorted, breaking his silence. "What's that supposed to mean? You show up after years, acting like some big shot, reading Dad's letter like you're better than us." His voice had that edge, the one he used to cut me down when we were kids. "Where you been, huh? Where'd you leave me?" I shot back, staring him down. "Out in the cold while you took everything I had." He flinched just a flicker, but I saw it. Mom jumped in, waving her hand. "That's not fair, Alden. We did what was best for Leah, for the family. You were young, chasing dreams that wouldn't pan out." Jordan stepped forward. I laughed, sharp and bitter. "You stepped on me, Mom. You pushed him to it, told Leah I'd never be enough, handed her over like I was trash. Don't act like it was noble." Leah spoke then, her voice shaky, stepping out from under her umbrella. "Alden, I didn't mean to hurt you. Your mom, she made it sound like you'd be gone forever, like you didn't care." I was scared. Her eyes were wet, but I couldn't tell if it was rain or tears. "I thought about you every day." I looked at her, really looked. The girl I had loved was still there, buried under years of regret, but it didn't soften me. "You could have called," I said. "Could have waited 3 weeks. You chose? Live with it." She dropped her gaze, water dripping off her chin. Jordan shifted, jaw tight. "So what? You're rich now, big man with a fancy job. Come here to rub it in our faces." "CEO," I said flatly. "Built a company from nothing. Didn't come to rub it in, just came for Dad, the ones who made it about me." Mom's eyes widened. Ed for just a second before she smoothed it over well. She said, forcing a smile, "That's impressive. We always knew you had it in you, didn't we, Jordan?" He grunted, not buying it. "Maybe you could help us out. Things haven't been easy." Jordan lost his job, the farm's struggling. Family helps family. There was the ask, same old Mom turning a knife into a handshake. I saw red for a split second, memories flashing. Her voice in the kitchen, "You're just you." Jordan smirking as he slipped that ring on Leah's finger, and Leah walking away. I took a breath, letting it out slowly. "You didn't help me," I said. "When I was sleeping in my truck, eating gas station sandwiches, where were you?" "Oh right, writing letters begging after you'd already cut me loose." "That's not Mom," I started, but I cut her off. "You made your choices, I made mine. We're done." I turned, nodding to Sierra. She called the kids, Maya and Elliot, scampering over, oblivious to the weight of it all. "Let's go," I said, and we started for the truck. Mom's voice chased me. "Alden, wait. Sorry, okay? We didn't know." I kept walking, rain soaking my suit, C's hand in mine. Jordan shouted something, probably cursing, but it blurred into the storm. Leah didn't say another word, and I didn't look back. The truck door slammed shut behind us. Maya giggled about her wet socks, Elliot asking if we could get burgers. Sierra squeezed my knee, quiet, letting me breathe. As we pulled out, I caught a glimpse in the rearview mirror. Mom standing there, arms limp, Jordan kicking at the mud, Leah under her umbrella like a shadow. They looked small, lost, as if the rain had washed away whatever power they'd once held over me. I didn't feel good about it. Not happy, not mean, just free, like a weight I'd carried too long finally slipped off. "Dad," Maya piped up from the back. "Were those people mad at you?" I forced a smile. "Just surprised, kiddo. It's been a while." She nodded, satisfied, and started chattering to Elliot. Sierra glanced at me. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, and for once I meant it. The road stretched ahead, Harrison fading behind us. I knew I'd never come back. They'd seen me, seen what I'd made, and that was enough. The rain followed us out of Harrison, streaking the windshield as I drove. The truck's wipers were squeaking. Maya and Elliot chattered in the back, and Sierra sat quiet beside me, her hand resting on my leg. I kept my eyes on the road, lights blurring through the wet, but my mind was still at that church. Mom's pinched face, Jordan's glare, Leah's umbrella drooping like a wilted flower. I didn't say much, just let the miles roll by. The hum of the engine filling the space where words didn't fit. We stopped at a diner an hour out, some hole in the wall with neon buzzing in the window. The kids were starving, and Elliot had been begging for burgers. We walked inside. It smelled like grease and coffee, the kind of place where the waitress calls you hon, and the booths are patched with tape. Maya slid in next to me, swinging her legs while Elliot climbed into Sierra's lap, smearing ketchup on his shirt. 5 minutes in, "You're a mess, buddy," I said, ruffling his hair, and he grinned, his teeth full of fries, watching them laugh over dumb stuff like who'd finish first. I felt my chest loosen up. This was mine, nobody could take it. Sierra caught my eye across the table, her smile soft. "You're quiet," she said, wiping Elliot's hands with a napkin. "Still thinking about it?" I admitted, poking at my fries. "Not them though, not really, just how it's over." She nodded like she understood and didn't push. That's how she was. Knew when to let me stew. We finished up, paid the bill, and piled back into the truck. The rain had eased to a drizzle, the sky bruising purple as night crept in. The kids dozed off halfway home, heads leaning against each other, and Sierra leaned her head on my shoulder. "Proud of you," she murmured, half asleep. I didn't answer, just squeezed her hand, but it stuck with me. Back in Easton, pulling into our driveway felt like landing after a long fall. The house glowed warm and simple. I carried Elliot in my arms, limp around my neck, while Sierra scooped up Maya. We tucked them into their rooms, messy with toys and crayon scribbles. I stood there a minute, watching them breathe. They didn't know what Harrison meant, didn't carry that weight. Good, I made damn sure of that. Downstairs, Sierra poured us coffee, and we sat on the couch, mugs steaming. The quiet settled in, thick but not heavy. "You going to tell me what happened?" she asked, curling her legs under her. So I did everything. Dad's letter, the way it hit me, how Mom begged, Jordan cursed, and Leah just stood there. I told her about the rain, the walk away, how it didn't feel like winning, just letting go. "Did you want to forgive them?" she asked, sipping her coffee. I thought about it, staring at the steam curling up. "No," I said finally. "Not because I hate them. I don't, not anymore. Just they don't get a piece of this, what we've got. It's ours, they lost their shot." She smiled, small but real, and set her mug down. "Then that's that," she said, leaning into me. We sat like that a while, the TV flickering with some late-night show we didn't watch. I felt the last knot in my gut unwind. I'd faced them, stood tall, and walked away. It was done. The next morning I was up early, habit I guess. The kids were still out. The house was quiet except for the coffee pot gurgling. I went to the closet, dug out that old box I'd kept too long. The pictures spilled out. Me and Jordan with fishing poles, Mom at a picnic, Leah laughing at the fair. I flipped through them, waiting for the sting, but it didn't come. Just memories faded like the paper. Then I saw the crumpled letter from Mom I'd trashed back in Harriston. I'd fished it out before we left and shoved it in my back pocket. Why? I don't know. I smoothed it out and read it again. Come home. We miss you. Help us. Same old tune, but there was something else tucked in the envelope. A smaller note I'd missed. Dad's writing. Shaky like the tribute. Alden, I left you the old watch. It's not much, but it's yours. I should have given you more. Forgive me. My breath caught. The watch is a beat-up silver thing he'd worn every day. I hadn't seen it at the funeral. Figured Mom kept it. Guess he'd hidden it for me. I sat there, turning the note over in my hands. Dad hadn't fought for me when he was alive, but he tried at the end. It wasn't enough to fix it all, but it was something. I tucked the note back and slid the box under the bed, out of sight. Not gone. Maybe I'd get the watch later, maybe not. Didn't matter right now. Sierra came down, hair messy, rope tied loose. You're up early, she said, pouring coffee. Everything okay? Yeah, I said, and this time it was true. Want to take the kids to the park later? She grinned. Only if you push the swings. Deal. That afternoon we did, parked down the street, the sun breaking through the clouds. Maya squealed as I pushed her high. Elliot toddled out after a butterfly, and Sierra laughed on a bench. I caught my reflection in a puddle, older, steadier. A guy who'd made it. Harriston was miles behind. A shadow I didn't need to chase anymore. I'd built this family, this home, this life, and it was enough. Driving back, kids singing off-key in the back, I glanced in the rearview. They were my future, not that town, not those people. I smiled, small but real, and turned up the radio. The road ahead was clear, and I was good with that. Well, that's my story, how I lost it all, built it back, and found my way. Took a lot of miles and a few scars to get here, but I'd do it again for what I've got now. What about you? Ever had to walk away from something or someone to find what's real? Thanks for watching Endlessy Diary Tales channel.